Welcome to the Azam Shop channel. I'm your host Mohammad Azam, and in this particular screencast I will introduce you to the Objective-C language and some of the basics of the Objective-C. So let's start with the interface keyword. Interface is basically to declare an interface, and it resides in the .h, which is the header file. Okay. .m is basically the implementation file. Here you will write all the code for your application. So if I want to declare, let's say, a field called name, I'm just going to use ns and declare a field called name. Of course, in C# and in Java and other languages, you will see that there's only a string keyword, not ns string. So ns over here, as I already mentioned in one of the previous screencasts, ns stands for next step. Okay, and this is kind of like a prefix for most of the or all of the things that you will be doing in Objective-C. So over here we have declared a reference type variable called name. How do we know it's a reference type? Well, there is a star or a static or asterisk right in front of it. So that will kind of say that this is a reference type and not basically a value type. So if I want to declare a value type, I can simply say something like this. Right? Now, whenever we declare these variables or these fields, we want to expose them in the form of the properties so that other users or other class can actually access it. And as you can see, it's pretty simple to assign these properties. And if I say retain integer number, you will see that there is an error now coming saying that, hey, you cannot use a retain keyword on a value type variable number. Okay, because number is not a reference type, so you have to say assign, and now it will be all okay. So you have declared your fields, you have declared the properties, but the outside class cannot really access your properties because it doesn't have a getter or setter. And getter and setter are very easy to create. You can just say synthesize and the name of the properties. So now you have the getter and setters. And you can access the name, or you can access the property just by saying self.name. So that will be reference to the property name. Okay. And over here you can say self.name. So whenever you declare properties and you want to access the properties and not the fields, you just say self. What is self? So self basically means the current instance of the class. Okay, so if right now I'm inside the Hello World View controller, so self will be an instance of the Hello World View controller class. Okay. So we have declared the fields, the properties, and we have set the getter and setter using the synthesize keyword. What about if I have to have a instant method? So let's declare a method called greet. It's not necessary to declare all the methods or the kind of like a definition of the method or the skeleton of the method inside the header file like I'm doing, but it's a good programming practice to declare the method that you will be exposing to the outside world inside this inside the header file. So right now the method is an instant method. How do you know it's an instance method? That's because it has a hyphen or a dash in front of it. The return type is void, so it doesn't really return anything, and the method name is greet, and there are no arguments, so this method doesn't really take anything. Okay, and if I go over here, I can simply say void greet, and I can implement this method. Pretty simple, right? So just remember that the one with the hyphens or the minus sign, those are the instance method. And if you can guess correctly, yes, the one with the plus sign will be the static methods. Greet static or something like that. All right. But most of the time you will be using instance method. What about if you want to pass something to the method? So let's say if I have greet over here and I will say get by user name, and I want to pass in, I don't know, username. Here we go. And of course this will return me something. I'm just going to say ID over here. Okay, and ID actually means that I don't know the return type, but usually you will return the type like a user or something over here, like a user. Here we go, like a user, but I don't really have a user type, but you get the idea. So this separates the beginning of the parameters, and you have to define the type of the parameter, and you have to declare this, that this is a asterisk, which means that the parameter username will be a reference type. Okay, let me just fix this thing up. Let's just say that it doesn't really return anything. And if I want to declare this method in our code, I'm just going to go void get by username, and here we go. Okay, so we declare this method. What about calling this method? If I want to call this method from inside the greet, how would I call it? I'm just going to say self, because we are the current instance. This will give me the current instance, and I will say get by username, and just replace this with a string. Let's say Azam Sharp. So this will now call this method, which is get by username, pass in the username as Azam Sharp, and do whatever you like to do. Sometimes you want to have multiple parameters. Okay, so let's say I have a method called get by username and I don't know, an email. How about that? Kind of weird method, but we can have that. So first thing you do is you do this pretty much similar thing. You have the first parameter as a username, but remember now that in Objective-C the parameters are named parameters. Okay, so what name you would like to give your second parameter? So I'm just going to say email and E. Okay, so here's the thing to understand about that. The first parameter, you don't really have to give the name. Okay, a name parameters basically means that when you are calling the function, when you're calling this particular method, you will give the name of the parameter, and then you will pass a value of the parameter. Since this is the first one, which is a username, it doesn't really require the name. Okay, so you can simply pass in the username, but Objective-C somehow needs to know what is the name of the second parameter. So we are giving the name of the second parameter to be email, and the parameter value will be inside E. Okay, so if I have to declare a third one, I can say, let's say, I don't know, password and a string and then P for password, something like that. So let's actually go and declare this method right over here. So I will say get by username and email, and you can actually see, let me actually call that method. So I'm just going to call this method from self get username and email, and you can actually see right now, check it out over here. So the first parameter is username, and I don't have to pass username, so I'm just gonna, I don't have to declare the name parameter for the username, so I can simply pass this. But that email is the name that we set up, it becomes the name parameter. Okay, so I can simply say you know, azamsharp@gmail.com. Okay, and this will reside in the E value, and you can simply say nslog, and nslog basically will display the things. It's a very useful function, and I pretty much use it all the time to display certain values. Okay, this means the percentage sign and the @ sign mean that I'm going to display a string value. Okay, and I can say this is a username, which is this, and email equal to email, or E, right? E. So if you want to see what functions are available, what properties, what methods you can call on a string username, you just have to say username over here and then press escape key, and here we go. So we have all the functions that are related to the string class. Okay, so these are all the lists, and you have to press escape to view actually those functions. Here's the length, which you might be familiar. So if you pass in, I don't know, Azam Sharp, it will give you 8 or something. All right. So that's pretty much it. I mean, this will get you started. Now you'll have the basic idea of how to use the Objective-C language, and that's pretty much it. If you have any question, any comments, you can use the YouTube page to comment out. If you think this video has helped, and if you want to help me out, then donations are always accepted. Let's go to PayPal, and you can send the donations to azamsharp@gmail.com. Hope you like this video, and thank you very much.